The timeless wisdom embedded in traditional food pairings, like rice with kimchi, miso with noodles, or injera with fermented legumes, reveals a remarkable biological foresight that science is only now beginning to fully appreciate. These culinary combinations, passed down through generations, do more than balance flavors and textures. They orchestrate a metabolic and microbial symphony that gently supports intestinal health, immune modulation, and even autophagy within the gut lining. When carbohydrates are paired with fermented foods, they do not simply coexist. They interact in deeply synergistic ways, optimizing digestion while fueling regenerative processes at the cellular level. Autophagy in the gut is a subtle, yet vital defense system. The cells lining the intestines, the enterocytes, face constant assault from pathogens, dietary antigens, and oxidative stress. These cells renew rapidly, and their health depends in large part on the body's ability to clear out damaged organelles, misfolded proteins, and invaders at the cellular level. Autophagy plays a starring role here, helping to maintain the integrity of the intestinal barrier and preventing leaky gut, a condition associated with chronic inflammation and metabolic dysfunction. Yet autophagy doesn't operate in isolation. It responds to nutrient cues and microbial byproducts, many of which are shaped by what we eat. Enter fermented foods. Whether it's kimchi, sauerkraut, natto, yogurt, or dosa batter, these living preparations teem with probiotics and produce postbiotic metabolites, particularly short-chain fatty acids, SCFAs, like butyrate, propionate, and acetate. Butyrate, in particular, has been shown to directly induce autophagy in intestinal cells. It does so by activating EMPK, a key energy-sensing enzyme, and inhibiting mTOR, the very same pathway that fasting targets. In effect, consuming fermented foods creates a local fasting signal in the gut, even in the presence of carbohydrates. This is metabolic nuance at its finest, nourishment and cellular renewal happening simultaneously, rather than in conflict. When these ferments are paired with carbohydrates, especially whole grains or starchy staples like rice, millet, or tubers, the microbes receive the prebiotic fuel they need to thrive. Complex carbs and their fibers resist digestion in the upper GI tract and reach the colon intact, where beneficial bacteria feast on them and produce more SCFAs as metabolic waste. The presence of live bacterial cultures from the fermented foods enhances this fermentation process and may diversify the microbial species involved, resulting in a richer and more anti-inflammatory SCFA profile. In this way, the traditional plate becomes a biochemical incubator, cultivating the very compounds that maintain gut integrity and stimulate localized autophagy. The implications extend beyond the gut itself. A healthy gut barrier, reinforced by autophagy and SCFAs, reduces systemic endotoxin exposure, thereby lowering inflammation throughout the body. Improved intestinal autophagy means tighter cell junctions, fewer inflammatory cytokines, and more balanced immune responses. There's also growing evidence that gut-derived signals can influence autophagy in distant tissues like the liver, brain, and adipose tissue. What begins as microbial synergy in the gut may ripple outward as systemic resilience. Culturally, these food pairings were likely born from necessity, preservation, and taste, but their enduring popularity hints at an intuitive understanding of what the body needs to thrive. In Korean cuisine, rice tempered by the acidic heat of kimchi not only excites the palate, but also supports digestion and microbial health. In Japanese meals, miso soup and pickled vegetables often accompany rice or soba noodles, creating a low glycemic balance that smooths insulin spikes while feeding beneficial bacteria. Ethiopian injera, made from fermented teff, is both a carbohydrate and a ferment in one. Wrapped around lentils, it becomes a complete microbial and metabolic meal. In the modern context, reviving these pairings holds promise not just for cultural preservation but for gut renewal in an era of dietary imbalance and overprocessed food. Integrating fermented foods into high-carb meals may be a key strategy for making those meals metabolically safer, less inflammatory, and more regenerative. Instead of viewing carbs as autophagy antagonists, we begin to see how the company they keep can change their impact. A bowl of white rice may suppress autophagy on its own, but served with kimchi, seaweed, and miso, it becomes part of a system that supports repair, digestion, and microbial harmony. Ultimately, traditional food wisdom teaches us that nutrition isn't just about what we eat, it's about how, when, and with what. In every cultural dish where carbs meet ferments, there lies a quiet lesson in biological design. That balance, diversity, and microbial richness can transform even the most basic staple into a force for cellular renewal. In that light, gut autophagy is not something to chase through fasting alone, but something we can gently nourish, meal by meal, with the ancestral blueprints already on our plates.